Hey traders, welcome back to the Ticks and Trades channel. In yesterday's recap video, I said that I would not trade most likely, nor would I record if I did trade, but I actually did. I'll show you the recording of the trade that happened. I'll explain that in a minute. Plus, how could I not make a video after today's price action? Pretty nice drop, 2.7% in the SPY, almost 180 points, a little over 180 S&P points. Pretty big drop. We'll come back to this chart after we look at a few other things and talk about what's going on. Here were the levels from this morning, posted at 9:03 a.m. You can read through the levels or just take note of the levels and then read through the game plan. We talked about that zone. We had a zone yesterday. The bottom was 672.55. So they got under that yesterday. We know what happened. In the pre-market this morning, they got back up to it, hit 672.55 pretty close, like right on the penny, and pulled back quite a bit. That zone wasn't on the board, but it was just something to keep in mind that there was probably some resistance up there. But as far as the actual levels, I wanted to point out that 671.15, that was just the close from yesterday. So there's a gap down there. It could have been a level to trade against if price came into it the right way. But really, in my mind, going into the day, it was an access point. In other words, it was a reference to see if price could stay above. Then the bulls probably had something left. But if they got underneath, the bears definitely would be in control. It just felt like a down day anyway. So this is what I said in the morning before the opening bell, and you can read through it at your leisure. Here is a screenshot of the chart, the 1 minute chart, before the opening bell. And here's the scope of the entire day, some levels higher up that really aren't relevant because they hit 673.53, they hit all these levels on the way down, and I'm going to explain this 658.14 later. It was not on the board this morning. Let's just zoom in and look at the relevant levels for today. If you were playing by the rules, you would have given the market 15 minutes to settle in. So after 9:45 a.m., the close of that candle was 673.56. 3 pennies above our level. No need to adjust it. Just plan on buying at the level. Essentially, when it's that close, I will just buy at the market. So if you bought at the market, we probably should zoom in here a little bit more, then you would have had a bounce of almost exactly 4 points in the E-minis, just launching off of 673.53. I'm not saying that would have been necessarily easy. Going into the morning, I felt that I wanted to be on the short side. So what you'll see me do is sell 6 contracts as soon as price hit the level here. And I waited this out and I pulled some points on the way down. So let's talk about 671.15. So price is falling very fast down into this gap left over from the previous day. I said, depending on how price is coming into it, generally you just want to see price kind of stair step its way down into a level, not meander around it too long. There's some consolidation things we want to look out for. This to me is behavior that I'd want to see. Can the bulls hold this? I'm willing to just step back, not trade it. If they bounce and stay above, then that's something to talk about. But I would not consider this tradable. It was just a reference level as spelled out in the game plan. They came down into 668.79. So even if you adjusted this with your 5-cent buffer, so 84 there, 668.84, they came down to a low of 668.91. That's within 10 cents, and then it took off. Pretty big moves here, like, I don't know, 10 points or so just in a few seconds. I'm not saying it would have been easy to trade this. I didn't see any of this, by the way. After I pulled some points to the market up here, I closed up shop around 10:30 a.m. after just 1 hour into the trading session. And I did not look at the market until I pulled it up on my phone sometime after lunch and saw what was going on. They were falling pretty hard. So I did get back on my computer, pulled it up, looked at a few more things in detail. I did take another trade. We'll talk about that shortly. So this level here, 668.84 as adjusted, near miss. Next, they came dropping fast into 667.61 as adjusted. That's 667.66. Close enough. We know what the number is. They came down to a low of, I think, exactly 667.66. So think about what's going on here. Where are we at here? Price opened here. They came all the way down, bounced to the penny, all the way back up here. So there's a lot of movement here. If you had your finger on the trigger or you had an order in the system to trigger automatically, that is a base hit right there. Why not go ahead and count that? Because the level was there before the opening bell and it worked. Same thing down to 666.43 or 666.48. Can't get it exactly here, but you get the idea. They bounced more than enough for a base hit, and they're messing around. You could probably go short when they came back up and hit these levels here, or this one level at 667, 65, 60 or so. But there's a lot of things happening at this point. I would have just left it alone. But anyway, counter trend trades are difficult, I admit, especially when price is falling or just moving like a freight train. So at some point I saw, I think it was around 1 o'clock, 1:30 or so, I saw price had fallen a lot and they stalled out around 658.14. So I verified this level by a few other means and felt pretty good about it. I didn't trade anything here. I mean, when I saw this happening, they had already bounced, but I waited till they got underneath this. When they came back up right here, I went short. At this point, I figure I'm in a bear market, at least for today. And I went short and pulled like 8 points or so with just one contract. So I got like $400 on a move. Did not record that. I'm just telling you about it right now. But I will share a recording of a trade that I took in the morning. And so why did I change my mind? I said in yesterday's video that I was not interested in trading today. I'm on vacation, just a full house, not the best environment with just this one laptop. I don't have my screens, and if I traded and I really couldn't record, at least I thought, because I didn't want to bounce back and forth between different analysis screens that I use. But I had a nephew with me, and he's about 15 years old. His name is Camden. He's very interested in my trading. So he's watching me set up the game plan and find the numbers and get that published. And it's getting close to the opening bell. And he's like, "Hey, Uncle Sam, why don't you trade something? I want to see you trade today." And so we decided together that maybe I would just see what I can do in the first 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes or so. So I'll start playing this. And what we decided is that if price went up to 673.53, we would go short. And I sold 6 contracts up there. I had it in the system. You saw the order just get inputted right there. Went by pretty fast. So I'm short 6 contracts. Now, we already talked about playing by the rules. You would have bought at 945 right when they got above this, and that would have worked. But I just wanted to be on the short side. Just kind of had a feeling. But didn't get a whole lot out of the big drop. But I did get, let's see, I took 5 of those 6 contracts off. I trailed the remaining contract down for a few more points, not a ton, but it was a couple $1,000s just in a few minutes. So I'm not complaining. And then I also put a line down here right below the opening range here. So the first 30 minutes of the trading day, I wanted to see if they would bounce there. But at this point, I really wasn't interested in trading it. I want to be on the short side, but I just want to see what they would do. That's why you see that level there. So at this point, all my levels went dashed or dotted there. So that's my indication to myself and to you that I'm not trading anymore. But they did bounce there. Right here, see, this is 670-ish, 671. They took off, so that's a little base hit if you chose to take that trade, if you knew what you were looking at. But at this point, I just let it go till 10:30, so 1 hour, and stopped the recording. That was my one trade in the morning, and then I already explained the trade in the afternoon right here. It's not recorded. It was worth about 8 points on one contract. Back to the daily chart. So we need to start on a weekly chart. Remember this doji candle from 2 weeks ago? Typically, that is a reversal signal. If timing's right, it's a good place. There usually means there's going to be a pullback from that area. That's really all we had going for this little clue here. It wasn't a ton of volume. You like to see more volume of this kind of thing. But if we got a weekly close below the high of that candle, then that still is valid. In other words, it still is telling you that the market could pull back. And then of course, we have on the daily chart just a bunch of back and forth. They couldn't get much above 673. We've been talking about that. And pretty far away from this trend line. Like it's getting farther and farther away. And so today they just gave it up. So black swan event, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. The news has all these reasons of why the market dropped. Of course, the day before they were talking about, there's new highs coming, and they don't necessarily know what they're talking about. I just look at the technicals. And we've been talking that a drop is going to happen sooner than later. Even in the game plan this morning, I just made the comment that something felt like it was a little off or on edge. Market's acting different. We could be in the middle of a rollover. Turns out we were toward the end of the rollover and they just dropped. So where are they going from here? Well, we got the weekly close well below the low of that entire candle. That is a definite reversal candle right there. And if you just kind of go back in time, you can see when you get to the highs, you get some type of reversal candle. Generally, it means there's going to be some more bearish activity following. They could come down and maybe hit some of these moving averages. There's a lot of things they could do, but it's not going to happen in a straight line, most likely. We're probably going to have some back and forth. Go back to a daily chart. There's going to be some retracements back and forth. Who knows at this point? There's going to be some battles, most likely. Kind of randomly going to a few charts here. Here's a 2-hour chart, getting pretty close to the 200 period moving average. Is there any other reason? I mean, there's reasons for support all the way down here, but we will just narrow those levels down as time goes on. But this is interesting. They chose to do this on a Friday because by Sunday evening when the futures open and it pushes price around, it's going to be interesting where they open on Monday. There'll be a lot of people betting it's on sale, price is on sale, and they're going to buy, but I don't want to speculate. I'm just going to wait till Monday morning, run my numbers, and we'll see what happens. Because as you know, they tend to work way more often than not. Somewhere around 80% of the days end in the green if you've been following along. And by the way, speaking of tracking the trades, I don't have the log. As I mentioned yesterday, I don't have the spreadsheet copied over to this computer. So I will make that up and we'll get it all caught up by Monday for Monday's recap video. I'll put my trades and the playing by the rules trades, and we'll get that caught up. But in any case, I just wanted to get this video out there, wrap up the week, show you my trade, and just point out that the drop we saw wasn't really a surprise. They were bound to do it sooner than later. So thank you for watching. I do appreciate your support, each of you following along. Have a great weekend wherever you are. I'll talk to you again soon.